Joined now by the Canadian Premier League Commissioner David Clanachan on what is a monumental day for our league. I won't spoil it. I want David to announce it. So, David, over to you to announce what is a special day, breaking news, and your own feelings on it, please.
Well, thanks, KJ. Yeah, we're very excited with the Canadian Premier League. Honestly, I've been smiling ear to ear all morning. The reality is, we're announcing today our ninth club, and we've awarded the franchise for the Lower Mainland of Vancouver in British Columbia to 6-5 Sports and Entertainment. We are extremely pleased. Vancouver is such a great sports city. It's one of the iconic cities in Canada, known throughout the world, and we're pleased that the Canadian Premier League is going to be there. I think it's a banner day for soccer in Canada, quite frankly. I think it's a banner day for the CPL. I think it's a banner day for British Columbia, and I can't imagine how it's going to be perceived across the country. I think people will be cheering out loud to see the Canadian Premier League playing in that part of our great country. So. Yeah, it's just one of those days. You know, you don't get many happy days all the time in sports these days, especially with what we've gone through in this pandemic over the last couple of years. But you know, it's a testament to the true grit that we have in the league and our approach to things, and that we're prepared to move forward and always moving forward, kind of like our game. That's how you win. You win by moving forward, and we've done that. And this is just another reason why.
We're going to get into the ownership group and the ability to the timeline in a second, David, but you mentioned your love for Vancouver there. Obviously, we've been in a little bit of similar that market, and Pacific have done brilliantly so far on the pitch. But how much importance was it from day one since you took this position to have this moment, to have a team in Vancouver?
Well, I think, again, next up is Montreal. Let's be honest. And I don't want to talk about that, but because we're not anywhere near that. But the point is, it's important that our big cities in this country get to see the Canadian Premier League play. I mean, surely we all understand, linear and OTT broadcasting is very important to that, KJ. You know that. But the reality is, it's important for young people, for families, for young adults, for soccer enthusiasts to actually be able to sit in the stands and see players play, right? And get a good feeling for the game. I was at the game last night up in York with York United versus Forge. I mean, in the pouring rain, still supporters there, drums going, songs going on, albeit maybe a little bit less loud than what you would normally expect. But this is what our game is, right? It's an exposure. Had a beef and ale pie at the game, and we all know who our friend is who owns that pie company, so he doesn't need any props from me. But that's the memories that you have. My daughter with me, and it was a great game. This is what we need, and so having that in Vancouver for me is a big deal. And again, it really helps. Not to mention, Vancouver is one of those cities that is seen as Canada around the world, right? And when people talk about Canada, they talk a lot about a number of things about Canada, but one of them is some of our bigger cities, because we don't have that many of them. And so to have them involved is very, very important for us.
You mentioned the game that you're at, Forge versus York, being there and being at a lot of those games. There's a real rivalry developing now, right? Because of how local that is. And the global game, local rivalries are important. And now Pacific versus Vancouver on the pitch is going to be a brilliant rivalry. That's going to be something to look forward to, surely.
Well, this idea of derbies in this country is like it's relatively foreign in the name only, right? But if you think back to even other sports, there's been some great rivalries in other sports in this country. Again, it's right up there with they sometimes rather beat their local opponent or near local opponent than win the league at times, right? I mean, we're not that far, but we see it obviously in Europe. This is important because, again, fans will travel, right? I'm sitting next to some people last night, and they talked about, they were York United fans. So, of course, I don't favor any of my children one over the other, KJ, but they were talking about buses going to Tim Hortons Field for that semifinal game, right? And so if that was where it was going to be played, and so that you like that, and that's, for me, is extremely important. Vancouver's going to be the same way. Now we've got, we'll call it the ferry derby, like it's a ferry ride away type of thing, right? So someone will come up with a better name than me. I need to stay out of the marketing, so they tell me.
You're doing a great job in what you're doing. What can you tell us, David, about the ownership group, 6-5 Sports and Entertainment Group, Starlight Investments involved with? What made it right that these guys were the ones who were able to bring it to Vancouver?
Well, again, the 6-5 guys, their whole thing was to continue to grow a sports entertainment group throughout the world, and so that was part of what they did. And so with Dean Shillington and Josh Simpson and Rob Friend, that was there. Having Daniel Jerner come in at Starlight Investments, who's comes from a European background, from Germany, understands the game, is an absolute student of the game, but is also a fanatic. I'll call it a fan, a supporter. Fan is short for fanatic, and so he loves the game. Saw him at the TFC Pacific game at BMO Field just a little while ago, and you could tell he was as hurt, watching the CPL team not win that game as I was. So it's great to have that level of investment. It starts to round things out. You see people coming into the business and continuing to come into the business that have global views on things and are prepared to be either. But again, he's a Canadian and he wants to, his family's from here. He wants to be part of this journey. And I think it's a great program for us.
We know this is happening. 2023 is what they've been said. We know Saskatchewan has been announced as being a future for us as well. But important to note, David, that this team, Vancouver, will be the 9th expansion team, correct?
That's correct, KJ. And I want to be clear about that because I know people are going to be confused. Well, you announced Saskatchewan and Saskatoon. And so the reality is LSSE, they were given the rights to negotiate for a franchise. But with that franchise always comes conditions, right? And so the Vancouver group had to go through those conditions. And so they've cleared those conditions. The reality is we still in Saskatoon are working on, LSSE is working, and Al Simpson are working hard and diligently and with great movement and great support in the province of Saskatchewan to bring the CPL to Saskatchewan. But until they clear those conditions, then they would become the next franchise, because that's when the application is then reviewed and discussed and recommended to the Board of Governors and voted on at the Board of Governors meeting, right? In this case, Vancouver kind of, I would say, we could, it's not, I'm not joking about it. Maybe they just crossed the finish line a little bit further ahead than the other, but that doesn't preclude Saskatchewan and Saskatoon from anything once they're ready to go.
Exciting times. Final question on expansion for you, and I know you're not going to drop any names out there, but what's the timeline going forward, and how much interest out there across this country are there to join this great league?
Well, I think it's important that everybody realizes we are here to grow. We said this from day one. We're here to grow the game. We're here to grow the talent, not only on the field, off the field, in whether it be administrators, could be coaches, assistant coaches, could be physiotherapists, everybody involved in the game. We need to grow that game, our game. And it's important that we do that. So the growth is everything. One of the things we are very clear on is we will continue to expand the league. We have a big country with a good sized population. We just started to scratch the surface on it. The key will be we need the support, right? And so the support always is, do we get the following? And so the cadence of how we do it is really important. Again, we have, I just went through this with a couple of our folks. We're probably at this point in time still looking at a potential of 4 to 6 clubs that are talking to us right now. And I can tell you, even at the next level down, when you look at League One Ontario, this is not new to you, KJ. You know this already. We brought 2 teams into League One Ontario for 2022, and both of those teams have been very, very vocal about their willingness to learn how to move forward in a proper format to qualify and apply for a CPL franchise down the road. And they've set themselves up to start with in the right way. And I speak of Julian de Guzman, and that's a name everyone knows. Fantastic footballer. He's got a reputation as wide as I know. And as well as Electric City FC, based out of Peterborough, which is kind of east end of Toronto and that whole Durham region. So they've been very clear that that's what they want. I admire the fact that we've got people out there that want to be part of this journey and this project, if you want to call it. We still call it a project because you're never successful until you drop that word. But we every day you got to get up and pull on your pull on your work boots and go to work. So.
Really exciting times. Let's put a bow on Vancouver then. The last one for you on that one is, you mentioned it's such a big country, wonderful city as well. And obviously the Whitecaps are there, but there is a space, isn't there, to have that fan base, that organization run successfully and drop another CPL there. We see it all over the world, don't we, David? All big cities around the world have different football clubs at different levels.
100%. And the reality is, you look at the population, right? And when we talk about the Lower Mainland, I mean, there's significant growth in that part of the world. So we have zero issue whatsoever. If you look at BC and British Columbia as a soccer playing province, I mean, it's one of the top 3 for sure in Canada, if not second. We know Ontario, obviously, just land mass and population is the biggest, but the reality is BC has done a great job over decades of developing young players, putting a lot of players into the national teams, both men's and women's, right? And so it's important that we continue to grow that. I think there's tons of opportunity out there. It really boils down to what's the fan base look like, and we know that there are rabid sports fans out there. They really are. The people like to go to watch sports in person, and they follow their teams, and they're proud of those teams. So I think there's tons of room, and we're very, very pleased that we can do that at this point.
Great stuff. Last one for you, and while I have you, this has been a very successful season for us at the Canadian Premier League. Not that long ago, 5 months ago, we didn't know what it was going to look like. Here we are wrapping up our regular season, 4 strong teams in the playoffs, and such high competitive games with great quality. What has been your view as you kind of look back on what was the 2021 regular season?
Well, it's interesting. You and I have talked about this in the past, right? And my attitude is, you got to put one foot in front of the other. And we talked about it. We need to see the level of play and what we're marketing and what people get to see from an entertainment perspective. It needs to rise all the time. And I think we've done a great job with that. I mean, I look at you look at just what we did in Winnipeg with the kickoff. Again, no one expected us to be able to do that. And we followed that up with then going back to our home markets, which we said we were going to do. And we were going to be playing in front of our fans and supporters as soon as possible. Let's talk about dreams. That's 2 dreams, not done. We wanted to do well in the Canadian Championships. And I think we did very well in the Canadian Championships. And frankly, a ball here or a ball there, a bounce here, a bounce there. We maybe at that point in time, who knows, maybe we're the guys who end up, with two teams in the final. The games were that close, right? And it was a shot heard around the world, so to speak, right? When people saw that, and then of course Forge's success in CONCACAF this year. 3 years in, a brand new league, and already we've gone to that level. I think we're doing a good job. More importantly, the players have been fantastic on the pitch. I talked to a number of the coaches like Jimmy Brennan at York United, and he talks about the speed and the quality and the skill level that's going on in our game here right now. It's a far cry from the day that we all used to kick a ball, right? And so they're so good, and they're improving all the time. And you're seeing lots of younger players come up too. You look at Pacific; it's one of the youngest teams in the league, if not the youngest team in the league. And look where they are. Right until the last couple of games, they were literally standing on the doorstep of winning the league title, right? And they're still in it for the championship. There's no doubt in my mind. So it's good to see that. You want to see that happen. But again, this, and there's an old saying, right? You're only as good as your last shift. So whether it's work, whether it's play, whether it's sport, you're only as good as your last shift. So we need to continue to get better every year, and I think we will. And we certainly did this year, and I'm very proud of what the league has done. And certainly during a time where people would, some would call it a crisis, others call it a pandemic, but it's been tough. It's been tough on sport. It's been tough on Canadians in general. And but again, you show your resiliency and you rise above it. And I think that's the whole country has done that. But I think we've helped it as well.
And no doubt about it, Forever First was the first year, and now obviously Rise Above, and we've come through it all. Exciting times. Semi-finals for the Canadian Premier League on the weekend of November 20th and 21st. First one, Cavalry versus Pacific out in Calgary, and then Forge take on York at Tim Hortons Field on Sunday, November 23rd. Both live on OneSoccer as well. David, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, KJ. Appreciate it very much. Take care.